In this video, we will have a look at Pycharm, which is a very popular code editor, or more commonly known as an IDE, Integrated Development Environment. Pycharm is a very popular and cross-platform IDE which supports Windows, macOS and Linux operating systems. There are two versions of Pycharm. One is the open source version called Community, and another one which has more features called Professional. The Professional one is a paid version and it's a fully featured IDE with support for web development features. And actually, if we go to the second tab here, compare Pycharm Community Edition versus Pycharm Pro, we can see the features both editions support. So we can see the languages, and we can see here Pycharm Pro supports SQL. Both of them support HTML. But down here there's a few more, such as JavaScript, CSS, etc. So you get more languages with Pycharm Pro. And then there's more in terms of framework support. So Pycharm Community only gives you the PyQt, where Pycharm Pro supports lots more in terms of frameworks. And these are the rest of the features both versions support. The community version is free and open source, and it's a good lightweight editor, and it's more than enough for pure play Python use, and in particular for network engineers, so that's what I will be downloading and installing. Now, because we already have Python installed from our early video, Pycharm will automatically detect Python has been installed when we attempt to install Pycharm. Let's go to the main page of jetbrains.com website where we download and install Pycharm, and let's click on download. And it does the same thing. It brings us to the different editions, and you can choose which operating system you want to install it on, Windows, Mac OS or Linux. Professional version is here, and we will download the community version. And once we have downloaded it, we can go ahead and install Pycharm. So let's click yes here. Welcome to Pycharm Community. Let's click next. And we will stick to the default destination folder. So let's click next again. And here we have some options. And to allow Python to run from a Windows terminal, we will tick this box here, add bin folder to the path. And this enables Pycharm to run from the console without having to specify the path to it. Let's create a desktop shortcut. And we can also associate .py files with Pycharm, especially if this is your Python editor of choice. And that's pretty much it from here and the options. Let's click next and we will install Pycharm. Pycharm has now been installed. Let's reboot it and then we will have a look at the application. Windows has rebooted and we can see a shortcut to Pycharm Community. So let's open this and take a look. The first thing we want to do is confirm that we accept the terms of this user agreement and click continue. And then you get your data sharing, so do whatever you want to do from here. I will click on don't send. Right, so this is Pycharm. Let's maximize it, and we can see on the left we've got projects, customize plugins, learn. We can do a quick tour from here, or we can click on create a new project, open a project, or get from VCS, which is version control. We don't have anything to open, so let's click on create a new project. And if you have been following the videos, you can see we installed Python 3.11 earlier. So it's automatically detected Python 3.11 has been installed on this Windows machine, as we can see here in the base interpreter. But you are free to change this if you have more than one Python version installed from here. I only have the one version, so it's only giving me the single option here. And then above we can specify the location and the name of the project. So let's leave it at default. Python project will do for me. And because we have this ticked at the bottom here, create a main.py welcome script. It will create a main.py welcome script where we are able to run and test it's all working. So this looks all good. And from here we can click on create down here on the bottom right. And it goes away and starts to create our virtual project. And it's created our Python project here on the left hand side. We can see Python project. If you click on the arrow, we can see our virtual environment. And here we can see our main.py script has been created as well. And you may have seen some recommendations on the bottom right hand side here. So they are always good to follow as well. Let's maximize the screen and we can see this is a sample Python script. And we can run this to test it, but let's also change it around. Let's call it test my script. And at the bottom left, we can see some other options: Python console, Python packages, services, terminal. So if we click on terminal, it will open up the terminal for us, which in our case is the Windows PowerShell. And here we can type Python. You have to type Python and then main.py, which is our file. Enter, and we can see here it shows us, hi, test my script. So it's run the file. But of course, the better way of doing that is you have the green play button on the top right here, run main. So if we click on this instead, it will run the file for us. And we can see it's done the same thing on the bottom left here. Another way of doing this, you can also right click in an empty area on the code in the file, and you can run main from here as well. And this is all providing it's got a configuration file from here. So this is where it's all reading it from. Run debug configuration. We can go into here. We can have a look at this. Click on edit configuration and we can see it in here. So this is what we had created at the beginning. You can remove it as well by clicking on the minus sign here. Remove configuration. Clicking apply. Click OK. And you can add it again from here. Edit configuration. And click on the plus sign. Python configuration, let's call it main. And you have some options here. So again, it's specified the interpreter, which is 3.11. Let's click on apply. Let's have a look at the other settings so you can see the other settings down here. We will stick with the defaults. Let's click on apply and OK. And it's got our configuration again here. So that's how we would run our test script, or any script for that matter. But on the left hand side here, again, we've got our folder, our Python project, and you can right click the project folder to do a number of things, like creating a new file. So let's create a new file, and it doesn't just have to be Python files, it can just be a standard file, like a text file. If you're creating a Python file, you can just go to create a new Python file. Maybe if you're creating another file, like a text file, you can create a text file from here, notes.txt, hit enter on that. We can see it here appear in our Python project, the note.txt file. And now we can see the tabs, both files appear here. We can also drag these around as well. So you can drag the notes below the main. Well, let's put it across. I'm pretty sure you can also drag it below as well, like that. And then I might want to add some notes to finish off my code from line 17. That sort of thing. And of course, when you right click, you've got many other options as well in here. Like maybe you want to open it up in Explorer. You may want to physically see the file. And if we do that, we can see our Python project in Windows Explorer from here. Or maybe you want to have a look at the local history, show history. And within Python project, it shows us all of the history that has occurred. And it shows it in the last 12 hours over here. Let's cross this off. And the Python project folder is our folder structure. So this is how our Python files are organized. You can make subfolders and put your Python projects into subfolders. Maybe for different Python projects, you can break it all down like this. So all your Python files are organized into different folders. And if we create another file, let's right click here. Let's create a new Python file. Let's call it first py file and click enter. And now we can see our file is created here. And we can write some code. Age equals 25. Print age. And you can see Pycharm gives us suggestions to finish off the code. Let's press enter here. And if you notice on the left, it's got line numbers as well, 1, 2, and 3. And if we right click, we can run it from here. First py file, select that one. And at the bottom, we can see it's ran the file. Now we have seen where we open up the terminal from down here, but there's also the Python console, which is good for experimenting with. And with the Python console, you can test your commands from here and debug things. And this is similar to the interactive shell with IDE. IDE is the default application when you install Python. And this is in one of my previous videos if you wanted to go back to it and watch it. Let's get rid of this Windows firewall notification. Allow access. And then here we can see, just like the interactive shell of IDE, the other application, the other code editor, the default one that comes with Python. And we can see the 3 greater than signs here. So we can do things from here like 5 times 5, and it would give us the result straight away, or some kind of Boolean result. 2 is greater than 3, and it will tell us it's false. Print something, and it would print it out for us. So this is really good for when you are debugging or you just need to do some quick experiments, and you would use this. You can basically test some of your commands from here to make sure they work. And as we have seen with writing code, it helps you finish off code. So if we type PR, it's determining what we would finish this off as. Python helps you with the autofill feature, and it determines what you want to type. So with PR, it guesses we want to type the print function here. And it's color coded as well, as we can see in the top script. For example, strings are in green. It's even given us a suggestion to say it's a typo. Replace with TypeScript. So it's giving us suggestions all over the place, and then we can see comments are in grey. There is a lot of good features with Pycharm, but one of them is the to-do list, and you can remind yourself of anything you need to finish off. So for example, I can come over here, and the way we write comments is using a hash, and then you would type to do. And let's put in our note to remind ourselves to finish something off. Let's go with import request module. Press enter. Now as soon as we have done that, we've got a to-do list here. On the bottom left, we're in the Python console at the minute, but we can click on the to-do list and it's found one already. So we break this down. We can see in Python project, in the first pyfile.py, on line number 3, and indented 10 across, so line number 3 indented 10 across, basically 10 spaces across. There's a reminder to do import request module. We can do another one. Hash again to do. Let's go with install netmiko and paramiko for network automation tasks. Enter. And again, we can see down here, it's found it on line number 3, indented 3 across. So this is really good to remind ourselves of things we need to finish off within our code. And if you cannot find this option here, you go to the top here, the 3 dots here, you click on these, and here is where you would find more tools. Let's have a look at the plugins. You can install various plugins. If we go to these 4 lines here, which will show us the menu, and these are plugins for things like your themes or anything else. Let's go to settings here. Actually, while we are on this page, you can change your theme from here. So the theme is dark at the minute. We can change it from here. We can also download other themes as well. Here is our zoom in. We are zoomed in 100%, but you can zoom in further. And down here, you've got key maps. So these are your keyboard shortcuts. And the key map it's chosen for us by default is Windows, because it knows it's a Windows operating system. But if you needed to change that, you've got a couple of other options here. And you can duplicate, let's say, a Windows key map and then change it to your preference. That way you can use your own customized key map of all your shortcuts. But going to plugins down here, we've got all our plugins. So the ones that are installed are on the right hand side here. These are the plugins that have already been installed. And then we have the marketplace, and this is where you can install some further plugins. For example, the presentation plugin. And this plugin helps us with shortcuts. So it says here, this plugin shows the name and shortcuts of any actions you invoke. So it's good to learn your shortcuts using this plugin. And actually, while we are on shortcuts, if I cancel here, I can do things over here. For example, Control A would select everything, Control X would cut it, Control Z undo, or maybe Control D, so I've selected that line, Control D to duplicate the line. And you get the idea. So a lot of these shortcuts are Windows shortcuts, like Control X for cutting things and Control Z for undoing your last action. And again, going over some of these options in here. So we've got File. In File, we can create new files. And we can open things and save everything as well. In Edit, we can cut, copy and paste. Delete, we can find. And of course, there's many other options. In View, we can put it into presentation mode. Enter presentation mode, for example. So it'll hide everything like this. Let's come out of this. View. Go back to appearances. exit presentation mode, or view for viewing recent files or recent locations and changes. You can increase and decrease the font sizes from here, but that's in settings as well. We've got refactor. For example, renaming something so that it renames it everywhere across all your code, and that way your code still works. And you can move files or copy files without affecting any of your other code or any of your other files. We have navigate if you want to navigate around, navigate in file, navigate across highlighted headers, search for classes, files, symbols. Then we've got code, inspect our code from here, analyze code, and lots of other options inside code. We've also got run to run our file or debug our file. We've got tools over here. So these are more tools that come with Pycharm. VCS for version control, where we can share the project on GitHub or Space. Window to see the multiple windows we've got open, and help as well. And this find action is quite good. So if we type in git, share the project on GitHub here, we can just search for it in there when we don't know where the option is. And it doesn't have to be everything, it can be for specific classes. You can narrow it down to classes, files, symbols, and actions. Let's type something else. Python, Python console, Python packages, maybe font size. Increase font size, decrease font size, reset the font size. So you could imagine how useful this would be when you are looking for something and you don't know where the option is. But this is not the only way to find things. You might be searching for something within your code, so you can do that with the Control and F, and then you can search for anything within your code. So let's go for age, and then just like any Windows Word or Notepad program, it will show us all references to our age, and we can do Control R, and you would probably guess what this does. Replaces everything. So you can see the top line is for find and the bottom line is for replace, and you've got the options here: replace, replace all, or exclude. So this is when you are looking in a specific file for something. And we have version control down here, so we can track changes to our codes. And Pycharm supports version control at two levels. One is at the IDE level. VCS integration is provided through a set of bundled plugins enabled by default. And then the other one is at the project level, where VCS integration is enabled by associating project folders with one or several version control systems. And last but not least, at the top right here, we've got our notifications. It's giving us some suggestions up here, and then down here it's giving us a timeline of what's occurred. And over here is where you can invite someone, invite others to your IDE, or join another IDE to work together on a project. Here is that search function that we used in help menu. So you've got a shortcut of it here. So if I click it, it's the same thing. So it's just a quicker way of accessing the search function. And then we've got IDE and project settings here as well. So rather than going into file settings, appearances and plugins, you've got the shortcut here, because plugins is probably one of the main features we access using Pycharm. Themes and keyboard shortcuts as well.